at the time, comes out and says, I don't think she was doing it on purpose. The coach says that. Go all the way to the front. This is how she plays. Look,
damn, girl.
She's obviously very sweet. She doesn't at all have any negative intent at all. She doesn't hit hard, and she plays very clean basketball.
Another white privilege.
And watch what she does to the eyes. You see?
Ooh, wow. The play in the last game, I didn't see the play in real time.
That's her in the back.
You sure about that? You sure about that?
I went straight to a press conference.
So you can pause it right there.
And that's her right there.
That's her in the back, and that's the foul.
Here comes kindness.
I stand by them. I will always stand by them.
Amen.
Everybody else can go to hell.
Oh, wait a minute.
Kindness.
Wait a minute.
So you know what? We need kindness.
Grace.
They go high, you go.
Grace. Sounds like a wholesome
go
Christian that just goes, hey, by the way,
we
go to hell, and then you leave. Walking, talking contradiction.
Everybody else is trying to divide our locker room. No. Not having your players back will do quite the adequate job at doing that.
Patrick Bet David didn't waste any time. He pulled up the footage, looked straight into the camera, and said what many people were already thinking. According to Bet David, Stephanie White saw the play happen in real time. Yet instead of addressing it honestly in the moment, she appeared to walk back her position days later after the criticism became too loud to ignore.
After the Dejanay Carrington clothesline from hell incident the other day, in which she came out and said, oh, Dejanay's she's not a dirty player. She just plays real hard. Blah, 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 blah. I mean, look, she turns into the Charlie Brown teacher pretty quickly with a lot of people. At least with me, she does. The moment I realize she's going to do it again and not back her own player, yeah, I'm out. I got to tell you, one of the most obvious traits of a terrible leader, not taking any responsibility.
Here's where it starts. DJ Carrington went up for what appeared to be a block attempt on Sophie Cunningham, but instead made contact across Cunningham's neck, causing her to drop immediately and require attention from trainers courtside. The officials ruled it a flagrant 2 on the spot, and Carrington was ejected before the broadcast had even finished showing the foul from another angle.
To be fired immediately, Indiana Fever head coach Stephanie White walked past her own player Sophie Cunningham to check on Dejanay Carrington after the hard foul.
Nobody in that arena needed a slow-motion replay to see that it looked bad. If you watch Stephanie White's face on the sideline at the exact moment it happened, her eyes were locked on the play. She wasn't looking down at a clipboard or turned toward an assistant coach. She was watching it live as it unfolded just a few feet in front of her bench. That detail matters because a few days later, that's exactly the part of the story Stephanie White appeared to change.
I mean, look, it was a hard foul. I don't think that Dejanay intentionally came out to get her across the neck like she did, but it did happen, and I thought it was the right call. But, one of the things about Nay is that she's going to play her butt off, man. She's going to compete. Nobody's going to go walking in for a layup. And so I don't oppose the hard foul, but I also don't think that she intentionally went for the neck.
Right after the game, reporters asked Stephanie White about the foul, and she didn't hesitate. She said DJ was going to play her heart out every night, that nobody was going to get an easy layup against her, and that she personally didn't oppose the hard foul. She also said she didn't believe Carrington intentionally went for the neck, despite having watched the sequence unfold just a few feet away. That's not the response of a coach who simply missed the play. It's the kind of response critics viewed as protecting a player she had personally coached for 2 seasons in Connecticut.
I can't believe that Stephanie White kind of stood up for Carrington. You would never see Shell Reeve, Becky Hammond doing this. You may think something, but you sit in a press conference and say that in front of your team? You don't do that. That's how you lose the team. The team will go against you. What? I'm blown away by that. You can think, oh, I used to coach her, talk to her on the side, whatever, but you don't go in national news and basically put down your own team.
This wasn't a coach commenting on a stranger from another franchise. This was someone who had developed a real relationship with Carrington, someone who had shared a locker room with her and understood her competitive edge on a personal level. So when the moment came to call the foul exactly as it looked, White softened her response instead.
And why is Fever coach Stephanie White defending DeJounte Carrington over her own player? That is absolutely bizarre, considering you can watch the replay of that, and it was absolutely unacceptable what happened to Cunningham. Both Sophie Cunningham and Caitlin Collins are wonderful role models for young children, and they play the game exceptionally well. Sophie Cunningham said that the hit by DeJounte Carrington was intentional, but Sophie Cunningham's coach sided with Carrington. Carrington is a Chicago Sky Guard that was once coached by White. I just can't understand why the WNBA is not doing more to protect their players. When Stephanie White was interviewed, she said she doesn't oppose the foul, but she definitely doesn't think it was intentional. That Carrington plays her butt off. That's a pretty generous interpretation of what happened to Sophie.
The reaction to that press conference was immediate, and it wasn't quiet. Fans sitting courtside were visibly upset when the replay appeared on the Jumbotron. Clips of the hit spread across social media within hours, gaining millions of views by the next morning. Analysts kept asking the same question. How does a flagrant 2 that visibly injures a player get described by her own coach as something she doesn't oppose? As the criticism grew louder, so did the pressure on Stephanie White to give a different explanation. That pressure helps explain what happened a few days later, when White changed her story in front of a different set of cameras and with a completely different tone.
Last game, I didn't see the play in real time. I went straight to a press conference. I thought the play got called right. Thankfully, Sophie's okay. Was it egregious? Absolutely. When you have a chance to watch that over and over and over on replay, you can see that. I didn't have that in real time.
Were there any
I take personally any suggestions that I don't 100% always have my players back. I ride with them 10 toes down all the time. All the time.
3 days after the original incident, Stephanie White stood at the podium again, but her tone had shifted completely. She said she didn't actually see the play develop in real time, explaining that she went straight from the bench to a scheduled press conference and only afterward, after watching the replay, realized how serious it looked. She also said she takes it personally when people suggest she doesn't have her players' backs, insisting that she stands with every one of them without exception. Here's the problem. Sideline footage from the original broadcast clearly shows her looking directly at the play as it happened. She wasn't turned away or distracted by a substitution. She was facing the court with a clear line of sight to the exact spot where the foul occurred. Saying she didn't see it live doesn't appear to match what the cameras captured that night. Once people compared that sideline angle with her later explanation, the story became much harder to reconcile.
I couldn't see it.
Say about the play in the last game, I didn't see the play in real time.
That's her in the back.
You sure about that? You sure about that?
I went straight to a press conference.
So you can pause it right there.
And that's her right there.
That's her in the
picture?
back, and that's the foul. What do you mean you can't see the foul?
Unbelievable.
And she says she got a better view than some of the referees got. And then this is how she comes and cries on TV about the criticism she got. How dare people on social media call her out? Go for it.
This is what really got people talking online. Someone took the original sideline angle and placed it next to her later press conference comments, breaking down the footage frame by frame. It's difficult to watch that comparison and conclude that she completely missed the play. Her head doesn't move, and her eyes appear to track the action from start to finish. Whatever she saw on that court, she saw it as it happened, not 3 days later on a highlight reel. So why did her explanation change? The most obvious explanation is the one many people didn't want to say out loud, even though it was right there in the footage. Stephanie White coached DJ Carrington and knows her personally. Once the backlash became too strong to ignore, critics believe protecting that relationship may have become more important than being completely upfront about what she witnessed.
Were there any
I take personally any suggestions that I don't 100% always have my players back. I ride with them 10 toes down all the time. All the time. They know that. It's a shame that we can't have an opportunity to talk about what great basketball they're playing. Because they are f***ing playing. The reality is, with me, I will always lead with love. I will always lead with grace. I will always lead with humility. And I will always lead with integrity. Doesn't mean I'll always get it right. I'm also human. The hate, the fear-mongering, the divisiveness, the stuff that's trying to hijack our league will not win.
This is the part that exposes the contradiction most clearly, and it's the moment that really lit the fuse online. During that same stretch of press conferences, White raised her voice at the podium and told everyone in the room, as well as everyone watching from home, that she stands by her players no matter what and rides with them regardless of what anyone outside the locker room has to say. It sounded genuinely passionate, like a coach drawing a hard line in defense of her entire roster against outside criticism. But the question is, which players exactly? Because the player who actually got hurt on that specific play is also one of hers. Sophie Cunningham wears the same jersey, shares the same locker room, and works under the same head coach every day. If loyalty is supposed to run equally in both directions, that same passion should have been there when Cunningham needed her own coach to acknowledge that the hit looked as bad as it did, rather than waiting 3 days after the internet forced the issue into the spotlight.
And then she put both hands up right after. But that's... DJ's not doing things half speed, right? Like, she's swinging hard.
Now, here's where the pattern becomes harder to ignore, and it's exactly why this story didn't fade away quietly. Just days after the Cunningham foul, Carrington was guarding Cecilia Zandolini of the Golden State Valkyries when she caught her directly across the eye while reaching for the basketball. No flagrant was called and no technical was issued, but the clip spread across social media almost instantly because it looked eerily similar to what had happened days earlier. It was another play where contact landed on an opponent's face instead of the ball. One isolated incident can reasonably be called an accident, but a second, nearly identical incident against a completely different opponent starts to look like a pattern worth examining rather than quietly excusing.
But now here we have her completely so far away from the basketball, just slapping Tiffany Hayes in the face. Let me just reach and see if I could grab some face real quick. Just smacking Tiffany Hayes in the face. Not really that big of a deal. Steph, any thoughts on this one?
One of the things about Nay is that she's going to play her butt off, man. She's going to compete. Nobody's going to go walking in for a layup. And
Fair.
It didn't even stop there. Later in that same matchup, Carrington also caught Tiffany Hayes across the mouth during another heavily contested possession. That's 2 separate hits landing on an opponent's face in a single outing, coming just days after the flagrant against Cunningham. Go back further into her career, and you'll find a trail of clips from previous seasons showing a similar recurring pattern, with hard fouls repeatedly making contact above the shoulders instead of cleanly reaching for the ball. That's not one bad night taken out of context. It's a track record that makes Stephanie White's original defense, framing it as Carrington simply playing hard, much harder to take at face value. If this were one aggressive defender having a rough week, fans might move past it. But when the same type of dangerous contact keeps resurfacing across multiple games, opponents, and seasons, it stops looking like a coincidence and starts looking like a habit that someone with real authority should address directly instead of explaining away every time.
Anger, and I look at it this way. This is not an apology. This is justification, an excuse wrapped in emotion with performative outrage. That's what I think. Wow. And she's glancing at the paper there. You know, sincere apologies don't need a one-pager. That was likely written by, I'll say likely, I don't know, likely written by the Fever PR flack and likely approved by the league. Every statement that goes out here, the league wants the...
I didn't even think about the league. Fever, yeah, it needs to clear the Fever PR, but clearing the league, that's an interesting perspective I have not heard yet. Did the league see this before Stephanie went out and did that? It's a very interesting point, Tom.
The uproar to stop, but they like the eyeballs. But this is going over the waterfall. And I look at it this way. If I was on the board, I would be saying to the CEO, you know what? I think this thing has gone over the waterfall here, and I think we need to make a change. We need to make a change in leadership. And if I was the owner of the
fire her.
I would fire her.
I would as well.
I would say, I don't think that was...
Back up.
That's exactly what analysts started pointing out once the second incident against the Valkyries spread online. Commentators who were already skeptical of White's post-game comments used the Valkyries game as evidence that their concerns weren't overblown. If Carrington's aggressive style kept resulting in hits to the face, while her former coach continued finding reasons to soften the criticism, the issue stopped being about one hard foul. It became a question of whether White was willing to hold her former player accountable or whether their personal relationship made that difficult. That's the real tension underneath this entire story. Stephanie White coached DJ Carrington for 2 full seasons, and when you coach someone that long, you build real trust and a relationship that doesn't simply disappear once you're on opposite benches. So when the play happened right in front of her and White's first instinct was to describe it as Carrington simply playing hard instead of calling it what everyone else saw, critics viewed that reaction as protecting a player she still felt connected to rather than objectively evaluating a dangerous play against her own injured athlete. Then the backlash kept building. Fans were visibly upset both online and in the arena, and her own players were reportedly unhappy watching their head coach downplay a hit that left a teammate on the floor during a nationally televised game. Once that reaction became impossible to ignore, White walked back her original comments. That's when the explanation about not seeing the play in real time appeared, right after the outside pressure became too loud to ignore. But that explanation doesn't appear to match the sideline footage people had rewatched, and it also conflicts with her confident post-game comments from the night of the incident. If she truly hadn't seen the play develop live, her first reaction should have been uncertainty rather than speaking confidently about Carrington's intent and competitive nature. That inconsistency makes this story bigger than a coach simply choosing the wrong words once. It's the change itself, step by step, that tells the story. Confident defense immediately after the game, a revised explanation once criticism became unavoidable, and then a passionate speech about standing by her players that sounded like White was defending herself just as much as anyone else.
Every day these women put their on the line.
They're not soldiers. They're ball players, man. They don't need to get beat up on the court.
Every day. When they go low, we go high. Love will win. Grace will win. Humility will win. And kindness will win. I stand by them. I will always stand by them. Everybody else can go to hell.
Oh, girl. Well, Stephanie, ma'am, clearly you did not stand and back your players who were deliberately being struck on the court. But somehow you made this about you. Somehow you're the victim in all of this. This is about basketball, ma'am. This is not about you. Stop playing the victim. You failed your player as a coach. There's even video out there where you were walking right past her after.
And that loyalty, real as it may be, only seemed to point in one direction. Cunningham was the one who actually got hurt and needed her own coach to immediately call the hit dangerous and unacceptable. Instead, the benefit of the doubt went to the player White used to coach, while the player on the receiving end had to wait days before her own head coach acknowledged how serious it looked. None of this requires assuming the worst about Stephanie White as a person. Coaches build real relationships over years, and those connections can influence how people react under sudden pressure, sometimes without realizing it. But when the footage shows White watching the play live, her own words afterward don't match the story she told days later, and a nearly identical pattern appears again that same week from the same player, it becomes harder to view the situation as an isolated misunderstanding. It starts to look like a coach who saw what happened, chose to protect someone she used to coach when it mattered most, and only changed her explanation once the fallout became impossible to ignore. Saying you stand by your players no matter what sounds strong at a podium, but standing by all of them equally, including the one who was hurt, is very different from appearing to pick a side and hoping nobody notices.
I think there's just been a lot of outside noise, but our locker room is good. And that's what it is to be an Indiana Fever on the staff, as a player, that when you come here, that's going to be one of the things that's going to try to distract you. But our locker room in there, it's tight, and we have each other's backs. Coach loves us. She didn't see the clip. At the end of the day, she didn't see the clip. And you know what, Dejanay, she is a hell of a player. She's a great defender. And so she coached her for I don't know how many years up in Connecticut. So give her flowers, and she didn't see it, and that's okay. Me and Steph are great. Steph is great with all of us. And so it's really the outside noise that's trying to distract.
Sophie Cunningham herself didn't stay quiet either. She called the foul intentional in her post-game comments, describing how it felt to be hit that hard and making it clear that she didn't believe the contact was incidental. That direct contradiction between Cunningham's account and what her own coach initially said added another layer to the controversy. When the player who was hurt tells a different version of events than the coach standing just a few feet away, fans naturally tend to trust the person who absorbed the hit over the one offering an explanation days later.
Yeah, I talked to Steph earlier in the day too, and I think we forget a lot of times, like, we're human and she has feelings, and there's moments that are really hard, and sometimes that's just the job you sign up for, but at the same time, like, it's okay to feel those emotions. And I just told her, like, I've been through the same thing. Like, there's been days where I've been really upset, and you can have the thickest skin in the world, but sometimes it does get to you. And I think our world is just like, we love to hate, we love to divide. Like, that's all we want to do. Like, nobody wants to see each other succeed, and I think that's a really painful thing for myself to watch. I feel like we need to do a better job at uplifting each other, and I can assure you there was no way we were losing this game tonight. And I told her that before the game. Like, there was no way we were losing this game for her, and it's tough. Like, that's my head coach. Like, I hated that our fans booed her before the game. That made me a little sick.
Interestingly, not everyone in that locker room turned against White during all of this. Caitlin Clark publicly stood up for her head coach after White faced heavy backlash from fans and media over her comments, showing that the situation genuinely divided opinion inside the Fever's own locker room. Some players may have appreciated White's instinct to defend a fellow competitor in the league, while others watching Cunningham deal with a real injury may have viewed the situation very differently. That split reaction is one of the most telling parts of this story. This was never just about one coach making a careless comment at a press conference. It became a debate over where loyalty should sit inside a locker room, and whether a coaching relationship built years earlier with a rival player should ever outweigh standing up for the player wearing your own jersey and sitting on your bench in pain. Until Stephanie White addresses that contradiction directly and clearly, the story is likely to keep resurfacing every time DJ Carrington becomes part of another controversy.